I am going to hand the microphone to Professor Al-Rahman to make a few remarks.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله بالعالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء سيد محمد السمين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Today my remarks will be very brief. In the new magazine that's published, there's an extensive piece about what I would like to say, but for the purpose of time, the speech that the remarks that I will make is based upon two references from the Quran. One is from Surah Al-Baqarah and one from Surah Al-Anfal, so I won't recite the Arabic because of time. In Surah Al-Baqarah, the Quran says, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim, O Lord, and raise in their midst a messenger from among them who shall recite unto them thy revelations, and shall instruct them in the scriptures and in wisdom, and shall allow them to go, lo, only thou art the mighty wise. The theme of the conference is centered around the role of the Murid culture and cosmology in the diaspora. And in my discussion of the paper, I wrote a piece called Standing in the Prism of Timbuktu, Tuba and the Nexus with Diasporic People. The attempt was to introduce key historical narratives that constitute the legacy as well as the sense of people, place, and story of 500 years of struggle of African peoples to reconnect with the concept of home, Mother Africa. In this narrative, not only are these Muslims of African descent standing in this noted place, a lofty place called Timbuktu, but they have also joined others trying to understand what has happened in this favored place. Thus, in a philosophical sense, as the page of history turns, and these men are discussing their experiences in this place of grace, the issue for them becomes, what is the significance of re-entering this solemn place via the doors of Tuba? Here, one is reminded of the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is very famous in the books of tradition. Ana meditun il alihin babua. I am in the city of knowledge and Ali is the gate. And another hadith where it says, Hubul watan midal iman. The love of the homeland is a valuable sunnah. As such, since the time allotted for it is limited, I will employ a summary approach to address the issues related to this topic. In this discussion, we could take several approaches to this theme of this year's celebration. I will attempt to juxtapose these two traditions in terms of the present discussion by comparing or deducing the essence of this particular context of the narration as it relates to this topic. Firstly, if we would take a flight through historical timelines, we return to the note that in terms of establish a sense of community relationship, that Murid cosmology and cultural practice tradition now dates back to 2 decades, 20 years, with the onset of 2008. In terms of social dynamism, the small community that observed religious rites and cultural practice traditions that took place in Brooklyn, New York, located on Foster Avenue, every Sunday. Thus, at some point in this community development, there were attempts made to include the establishment of Juma services, an international school program called the Hijra program, and its community health and wellness component, religious discussions around comparative subject matters associated with Islamic discipline, Suluk fil Islamiyah, a weekend religious studies program for children, and therefore a sense of examination of the state of Murid cosmology, religious culture and tradition in America's public square is warranted as we contemplate the 20th celebration. According to scholars of Islamic history, especially in its relation to the concept of hijrah, migration, as a foundational building agency, as in the annals of Islam, it speaks with clarity on the myriads of examples throughout its illustrious history, and the noted place that Idra and personalities that shape the social movement of history that emerges from this reciprocal discourse between these two constructs. As such, the history of Muslim diaspora peoples are replete with parallel examples of this dynamism to find meaning in their lives through its connection to its ancestral land of Africa.
شيء كلنا بلا يقين لك خطاب يا قريب يا مجيب يا من بإله زمني خير الأجيب أبلي وللذين قد تلقوا يعودا بي لخير ندلقوا إياك نعبد ونستعين فإنك المعبود والمعين دللتنا بك عليك يا رقيب يا من به ينقل كل النقيب يا ذا الصراط المستقيم هب لنا ودا به يغبطنا من قبلنا.
Okay, shukran. As we continue, one of the first summative points of importance is that in 1739, there was a peace treaty that was signed between the British and the so-called Maroons who lived in Jamaica. And history has shown that the Maroons were in fact the misogyny called the Moors between the Andalus and the Africans who lived on the island. And in the article that's in the magazine, it talks about the whole idea, the fact that the leader, whose name is Kojo, from Kojol, means humble, and his sister, who's popularly known in the culture as Nani, that upon the victory against the British, they basically submitted and gave praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the treaty document was signed in the name of God as a sign of proof of the Islamic connections. There was also another example. The second one is the so-called peace treaty, the peaceful general strike of slaves in Jamaica in December 25, 1831 was another example. The influence of Islam and Garvey was another. And these are supported by current research, as well as the circle of pioneers, which include Sheikh Dawood Faisal, Sheikh Ibrahim Abdulaziz, Sister Doria Mia, Sheikh Al-Hajj Mukhtar Al-Maroon, and Sheikh Abdullah, just to name a few, of the what I call the trifork of the Americas. If we were then to compare the timelines for the establishment, for example, of Touba in the 1900s and Timbuktu in the 1200s, around the tradition of migration, the question becomes, was this place Timbuktu known to the outside world before the famous trip of Mansa Musa to make this famous Hajj? The second question is, and is there any comparison between his journey and the travels of Saint Murtada Mbaki to the Americas to reconnect with African descent people? The other question is, and in particular, were the works and contributions of Amadou Bamba to Islamic cultural practice tradition in Senegal and West African Islamic scholarship known before these epic journeys? And of these travels, what is the most important legacy? And I will attempt to summarize them in this sense. In the case of Mansa Musa, history tells us that it was the trip of Abu Bakr to the west that placed Mansa Musa as the ruler of a synergistic state that spanned the geoproximity of the three previous empires of Ghana, Songhay, and Mali. As such, and due to time constraint, we will say that knowledge was one of this empire's greater resources, and it had a respected education system. The other issue is its famous Hajj brought greater attention to the source of gold and also established Timbuktu in prominence as a center of trade. If we move then to the comparison with Sayyid Murtala's journey, Ahmadu Bamba established a city where the foundation was built on submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in laying the foundation of this noted place, Ahmadu Bamba, he prayed and supplicated to follow the best example known to man in the qualities, knowledge, wisdom, and ethical example established by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Thus, in following the example of his father, Sayyid Murtala, sought to exemplify this noted place, Tuba, with the foundation of a system of education that sought to transform the lives of its citizens at a place of knowledge, Dawul Halimul Kabir. And what I'll do, there's some other points here, but I'll go to some key summary points that is important for us to understand. One is from the vantage point of importance. Sayyid Murtala has created an institution, Al-Azhar, that represents parallels to the system of Timbuktu at its heights. In the 12th century, Timbuktu had over 25,000 students out of a population of over 100,000. In the case of Tuba and the Al-Azhar Institute, which now have upward of 25,000 students, this represents intellectual capital that could be the foundation of societal transformation in years to come with the building of the Al-Azhar University system. May Allah accept. In dynamic ways, the Al-Azhar Institute, from the point of view of curriculum, design, and academic programs, represent the crossroad between a pedagogy that speaks to academic excellence in terms of relevancy in education and the development of an Islamic discipline, Suluk fil Islamiyah, that would enhance the importance of teaching Ahmadu Bamba in the 21st century. Of note in this respect is that in the Islamic world today, lack of dynamism and stagnation that now engulf the Islamic world, where they lag behind in science and technology, is a factor that is cited in the work of Bay in 92 in a book published in a discussion on the Moors. And he called the Moors the contributor to the scientific flowering of Andalus, which is basically Muslim Spain, where the evidence suggests that Europe's prominent universities rose to importance during this transfer of culture, arts, astronomy, medicine, mathematics, and technology. And in institutions like Bologna in Italy, 1158, Montpellier, France, 1180, Oxford in England, 1200, Valencia, Catholic Spain, 1209, Toulouse, France, 1123, Naples, Italy, 1224, Padua, Italy, 1228, Rome, Italy, 1225, Salamanca, Catholic Spain, 1250, Cambridge, England, 1257, and Coimbra, Spanish, Portugal, 1275, and Lisbon, 1290. Thus, St. Murtala's sense of unity, this is very important, wahda, and this can be observed from his reform to first link the trifocal Muslim people of the Americas to not just a limited connection to a local village marabout to address religious and spiritual matters, but he connected them to a weird in similar ways to the approach used by Ahmadu Bamba in trying to unify the tribal class as well as ethnic dynamics found in Senegal at the time. This is exemplified by appointing Mohammed Balochi to head the community in the Americas, by establishing Sister Amina Ndiaye and Kabir Ndrami as heads of American Muslim Women Daya Mamjara Buso, and to appoint Muhammad Al-Rahman to work along with his son Sayyid Qasim Baki and Sayyid Mustafa Mbaki, his nephew, to work in the Al-Azhar Idris Studies program established in Dar es Salaam to educate American children. Additionally, he instructed Mustafa to establish a non-profit structure to embrace these ideas and to create a true sense of representation for the local community. And finally, with respect to the issue of his role as a conveyor of demystifying the fallacies associated with the curse of Ham, which is an Islamic concept, but time does not lend to discuss it. These discussions are found in two books in Timbuktu, Tariq al-Fatash and Tariq al-Sudan, and they were quoted in some sense in the works of W.E. Du Bois. St. Murtala then not only demonstrated this sense of synergy between the life and works of Ahmadu Bamba, but his exemplary life was the embodiment of those noted teachings, and he can be considered in similar ways to that tradition cited earlier. Anna Ali Nuhin Wahid, Sheikh Murtala was like the barb filled tuba of Amadou Bamba's teaching, especially the forgotten contribution of African descent peoples of Muslim heritage to improve the life of the world communities, whether they are on the shores of the two Maghrebain as described in the Quran, or at home in Mother Africa. Their longing, as described in the Quran, seeks to connect with that important transnational ethic. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us all and make us value and appreciate this grace He has given to us in the dedicated life of Sayyid Muta Mbaki. Masalam.
Thank you, Abdul Rahman, for your nice remarks.